Alright, what is going on YouTube? And today we got another top 10 video. Today I'm coming at you guys with my top 10 all-time movie hierarchy list. So a couple disclaimers. I do enjoy movies and like cinema a lot. I have seen quite a few movies in my time, and I have about 280 something movies ranked. And I have these movies ranked on by my personal enjoyment of them, but I also gave them what I thought to be an objective ranking as well, and that's separate from where I have them on this top 10 list. So for instance, a movie could be what I consider a 10 out of 10 lower on the list than a movie I consider an 8 out of 10, simply because I enjoyed that higher ranked movie more. So like always, this is pretty purely subjective for the most part, and just, my personal enjoyment. So if you have any disagreements or movies you would like to have seen higher, make sure to let me know in the comments and explain why. And yeah, let's get right into it. I'm gonna start with 20 to 11, all of my kind of honorable mentions on this list, just to give you a frame of reference, because there's so many movies out there, so I feel like there should be a slightly longer honorable mention section. At 20, we have The Big Lebowski. At 19, we have The Bee Movie. At 18, we have Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. At 17, we have 10 Cloverfield Lane. At 16, we have The Batman. At 15, we have Wedding Crashers. At 14, we got Kung Fu Panda. At 13, we got Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Zoolander is number 12, and Cars 2 is 11. Coming in at number 10, we have my favorite movie that's based on a true story, or I should say is a true story, of all time. We have Molly's Game. Molly's Game is a movie about an ex-Olympic skier, or like downhill skier. You know those people that go down snow mountains with like little kind of sticks on their feet and stuff. It's about a woman who does that. She gets injured. She's left with nothing because her career is kind of over. So she starts a gambling ring with some of the richest people in the world and like famous people in Hollywood. It's crazy. It's like a poker game for the Illuminati. She runs it, and all of the problems that come along with that. It's freaking sick. It's a really good movie, and surprisingly one that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about. It's got Jessica Chastain, the dude from Pacific Rim, and Kevin Costner. It's got them in it. Oh, and I can't forget it's got Michael Cera. So that should just be a dead giveaway. This is a must-see. Coming in at number 9, we got the good old Sigma classic. We got American Psycho. And American Psycho has been a comfort movie of mine ever since I watched it. The acting is phenomenal. I think Christian Bale's performance of Patrick Bateman is top 2 acting performances I've ever seen. The way he just brought the character alive. And so ahead of its time too. The deeper meaning behind it, or at least the meaning that I extracted from it, was pretty awesome. It's pretty funny too. There are so many scenes that it's kind of like the dark humor where it's like you shouldn't be laughing, but you just are, because it is kind of funny. And it's just like a cool time period that the movie kind of depicts too. Like the very materialistic corporate greed setting. I think that's pretty cool. So many iconic moments in this movie. I gave this movie a 9.5 out of 10, and Molly's Game I didn't give a rank because it's based on a true story. Like, it is a true story, and it is a real person's depiction of their life events. So I typically don't rank those movies for that reason, because it's not like how do you say, constructed, like it wasn't fabricated, it wasn't made up. These things actually happened, so that's why I usually don't rank movies that are a true story. Coming in at number 8, we got Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules, with a perfect 10 out of 10. Anybody who watched this movie or grew up with this movie, I'm sure was eagerly anticipated to get to the point in life where you were having parties at your house and stuff. You're like, oh my gosh, this is what all parties are going to be like. They're just having a great time. They're drinking pop and stuff and just eating chips. Look at how awesome that is. But for those of you who have gone back and watched Diary of a Wimpy Kid as an adult, no longer a kid, you found that it is still one of the best movies ever. It is hilarious. Roderick is just so cool. Taught us so many lessons in youth that carried us into thriving positions in life as an adult. Roderick truly is a role model, and as far as fictional characters go, definitely made one of the biggest impacts on Earth and on youth, on young men. Definitely more so than Superman or the Lorax or, I don't know, James Bond. Yeah, great movie. I have nothing but good things to say about this movie. Peak comedy, and yeah, I say peak comedy, but I'm taking it one step higher for number 7 with another perfect 10 out of 10. Actually, all the movies after American Psycho get a perfect 10 out of 10, in my opinion, and kind of objectively too. But we got Megamind. Honestly, probably one of the best comedy movies ever. The best animated movie ever. Voice acting, Brad Pitt as Metro Man, Will Ferrell as Megamind. And so, Megamind's funny too. Like, it is such a funny movie, and it's a movie that both children and adults can enjoy. It has humor and themes that cater towards both sides, so it's one you can easily go back and watch as an adult. Even though as a kid you're like, wow, this is cool. It's like super funny as an adult too. And there's so many themes and stuff in there. Like how Metro Man just got burned out of his routine and just wanted to like start a new thing, find himself. Like, I really resonated with that growing up. And Megamind, he's like, we have it all, minion, and yet I have nothing. Like, he got what he wanted, and he felt empty inside. Like, he accomplished his goal. Like, there's just so many themes like that in this movie. It's incredible. It has pretty much everything you could want in a movie. Action, good animation, humor, great themes, great voice acting, great characters. Megamind's awesome. I love it so much. Coming in at number 6, we got Avengers Infinity War. And before everybody hops on the, you got a Marvel movie top 10? You gotta remember, Marvel used to be peak. No, like, The Boys was not really poppin' yet, and DC was already on the downhill back when this came out. And no other studio did comic books like Marvel was back in their heyday. You will not meet anybody who's a bigger current Marvel hater than myself. I do think it's super cheesy now, and even some things people think that Disney is recovering Marvel with, I still don't like very much. But back in their heyday, man, Marvel was peak. Like, all of these different standalone superhero movies led up to Avengers, and then all the Avengers movies and all the standalone superhero movies that followed led up to Infinity War and the introduction of Thanos. Josh Brolin did such a great job bringing that character back to life. So many iconic quotes. And I'm pretty sure everybody who is watching this list right now, unlike the other movies, I guarantee you has probably seen Infinity War. So spoiler right here if you happen to be the one that hasn't. But I love Infinity War so much because Thanos wins. If you didn't watch Endgame, if you just stopped right there, Thanos gets exactly what he wants. And I think that is so cool to see because of how hard Thanos works to accomplish his goal. And he has good intent behind it. It's not like he's motivated by greed or revenge or any of the typical villain tropes. But he actually just wants to make the world a better place. He snaps his fingers, wipes out 50% of humanity, and it was a merit of his own hard work. He like ripped through time and space to accomplish his goals, manipulated different species for like how many movies in a row was that? And he's just a big, jacked, bald, purple guy, just like throwing around a team of like millionaires and super soldiers and demigods and stuff. You love to see it. Easy, like, one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. But I don't like it as much as Avengers, the original movie, which is our number 5 spot on this list. I used to have this as my favorite movie of all time, but I saw different movies that I enjoyed more, and as time passed, I was able to say, Yeah, I like this movie less than these other movies, but it's still a great movie. It is the original Avengers kind of assemble movie. All these different heroes come together. It was back when Hawkeye actually could do something against all these enemies, and it wasn't just all the people with magic just beating, just like carrying everybody's weight, and Iron Man just flying around blasting people. It was before the Hulk had ED and before Disney kind of took over, and for those people who know what I'm talking about, introduced some kind of corny and like things that break up the flow of an action movie. Loki was such a good villain, and the whole part where he kind of takes over Hawkeye's mind. Hawkeye isn't in control of what he's doing. Like, Hawkeye used to be one of my favorite Marvel characters, and he had a pretty big part in that movie. So I just thought that was so awesome. And it was pretty ahead of its time for superhero movies too. It set the precedent of like a whole era of superhero movies, and gosh, it was like the peak of the Marvel franchise, I would say. Coming in at number 4, we have Arrival, which I previously had at number 2. Before the start of the year, I had Arrival at number 2 on my list, and it is basically a movie about these big freaking eggs that land on Earth, and they contain alien life. And the world's best translator is picked up by the government and asked if she can develop a form of communication with this species of, extraterrestrial beings. And that sounds like a little bit abstract of a concept, but the lady is pretty smart. She figures out a way to communicate with them and unravels all of these mysteries and red flags and different pieces in the communication with this species, and you're constantly thinking the whole time, what do these creatures want to do? And the ending to this movie is phenomenal, and it makes you think about things and about life and about, I'm not going to go too much into detail, but it makes you think in a different way. It is the best alien movie I've ever seen. Yeah, it's the best sci-fi movie I've ever seen too. Yeah, such a great movie. Directed by Denis Villeneuve. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Probably my favorite director of all time. And also the director of our number 3 spot, which is Enemy. A movie that I hear almost nobody talking about when they talk about their favorite movies ever. And not because they didn't like it, but because I have found that almost nobody has really seen this movie. It's got peak acting from Jake Gyllenhaal. And this movie just throws you for a loop. It is all over the place. I would classify this movie as more of like a psychological type of movie. I don't know about psychological thriller, but it is definitely pretty psychological. And it is just such a complex, like crazy movie that it's hard to even describe a summary or give people a little preview for. But basically, Jake Gyllenhaal is this dude. He's got a girlfriend, and he's watching a movie one night, and he sees that one of the extras looks exactly like him. So he flags down this extra, kind of like stalks him online, is able to pull some info on him and find him in real life, and he's just like, what the heck, you're me. And yeah, he has like a duplicate of himself. And there's such a big theme of like giant spiders in this movie. Like, oh dude, it's so good. You just gotta watch it. And then you might have to look up an explanation for it afterwards, which maybe, if, this channel takes a cinematic turn, I will do my own review on it one day and my own interpretation of it. But I think it has the perfect execution of themes like control and just insanity. My goodness, it's such a good movie. And I love the atmosphere, and I love the kind of set of the movie as well. It has a very like yellow tint or filter to it that just feels kind of trippy and really draws you in. Yeah, great movie. Coming in at number 2, we got another movie directed by Denis Villeneuve. We got Dune 2. And this movie is as good as it gets for action. And without going too much into spoilers for those who haven't seen them, actually, I'm gonna get into spoilers. The movie was already super good when Paul is fighting alongside the Fremen. The time period when it's just him, he's like earning the Fremen's trust and helping them reclaim their spice fields from the Harkonnen. That's already incredible. I remember thinking, man, Paul is probably my favorite main character of all time that doesn't have like something villainous about him. Like, for example, Light Yagami, Eren Yeager, Homelander, all of the like. But this movie takes a turn. Oh, and before I move on, the scene where he rides the sandworm, I remember thinking this is already the most cinematically groundbreaking thing I've ever watched. Like, it was just amazing seeing that on the big screen at the IMAX at the movie theater. By far the best in-movie theater experience I've ever had. The music was just like, you could feel it. It was just like resonate. Excuse me. It was resonating within you. Pause. But it's just such a captivating movie. But the movie takes a turn when they introduce a new character, Feyd-Rautha. Just a brutal scene, multiple brutal scenes of him. Kind of an initially terrifying character to view. Incredible acting from Austin Butler on his end as well with bringing that character to life. The scene with him, filmed in black and white, and it is such a different feel that scene gives you. It completely turns the movie around in a different way and makes it less of a wholesome, triumphant movie. Transition that straight into like a war, brutal, action sci-fi movie. Feyd-Rautha comes to Arrakis, which is the Fremen people's homeworld. Just takes out so many of them and kind of corners Paul into a position where he says he has to do something that he promised he wouldn't do, and that is go south. He goes south, he drinks the poison from the sandworms, and he seemingly dies. And then he gets brought back, and everything in his demeanor changes right there. He becomes a completely different person. Or so it seems. You know, not everything in the story is revealed to me yet. I haven't read the book, but it's just from what I gather from the first two movies. And I can't wait for the third. Let me just put that out there. But his demeanor changes. He locks the hell in. He is just so... Dude, such an amazing main character. One of the best acting performances I've ever seen for sure. And one of my... Paul Atreides is pretty much my favorite character of all time. Him and Homelander, I would say. And he is just... He's so cool. Let me just say that. I don't want to glaze, but Paul Atreides was so cool in like the last third of that movie. It is such a great action, war, sci-fi movie. It does it the best. It just does. And the feel of the movie, the soundtrack, is just unlike any other. I could argue with this being number one in my movie ranking. But our number one spot isn't just a great movie to watch, but it also is an incredibly impactful and life-changing lesson that I think everybody in the whole world could benefit from watching. The things you own end up owning you. And our number one movie does a great job at... It's pretty much just like, oh my gosh, that's like the best message ever. And like the best like message conveyed through media form that I think this world has pretty much ever seen, besides the Bible, of course. And everybody knows what I'm talking about by now. We got Fight Club. If the concept of a bunch of guys just starting a club underneath a bar where they just beat the hell out of each other and then go about their daily business after that, if that concept isn't cool enough for you, this movie has so many messages about becoming a tougher person through means of self-destruction. If you can get rid of the things that bring you the most comfort and the most happiness and the most value, if you can get rid of that and destroy those things, who are you as a person? You hit ground zero and you can really just evolve and become something more. And so many people, I feel like, nowadays could use this message more than in the movie. Like, so many things, when you really take a step back, mean nothing once you have gotten rid of them, separated from them from your lives. There's so many distractions that people sift through without even knowing on a daily basis, now more than ever. And this movie came out in like 1999, I think. A movie directed by David Fincher, another one of my favorite directors, but I think Denis Villeneuve has more movies that I like more than David Fincher does. But Fight Club, by far my favorite. It's about a dude played by Ed Norton who he's got a good life going for himself, but he can't sleep and he feels so unfulfilled and he just feels awful about himself. And he starts going to different small groups and like focus groups in order to make himself feel better. And on a business flight, he meets Tyler Durden, who is played by Brad Pitt, somebody who wants to cast off all societal distractions and tethers, and he just kind of marches by his own beat, as they say. He just wants to change. He thinks the human race needs to evolve, as he says, and let the chips fall where they may. And that's about as far as I'm going to go into it, but the movie has a great plot and a great little dynamic between Tyler Durden, the main character, as well, that a lot of people probably know of by now, but I won't go into detail for those who haven't seen the movie. And the concept is amazing, the message is amazing, and it's a pretty funny movie too, so it's got a little bit of everything. I cannot praise Fight Club enough, because it was life-changing for me. I know a lot of people say Fight Club fans, they overhype it, but that's probably because these people don't get the message or haven't resonated with it yet. Like, and if you watch movies just for entertainment alone, I can understand having a few movies above this. Like, if messages kind of go over your head and you don't watch movies for a message or for a deeper meaning, then I can get that, but it doesn't change how truly important I think Fight Club is. The harder you chase happiness and pursue pleasure, the more out of your reach it'll become, and the more inconsistent and kind of just flimsy your happiness and pleasure you find actually becomes. And that's really a message Fight Club displays. You have to stop trying to control everything and just let go. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you guys liked these picks, and if you didn't, make sure to comment down below which you thought should have been number 1 or you're in your top 10, or flipped around, and if you thought that movie shouldn't be in your top 10, make sure to let me know why. But yeah, God bless you guys. Peace out. I love you. I will see you next time.